the NRT Carbon Project Update meeting. We're having it every Monday. Today is June 10th. And our agenda I have posted on the group is to review the work in progress, of course, to discuss that, and then to provide feedback on what needs to be provided at this stage, and then discuss the next steps, of course. So welcome everybody, and we're familiar with each other, so I suppose we don't need introductions. I see Steve. Steve is the guy in charge of sound with us, and he's joined us, and so welcome, Steve. Now, yes, there was a question, Kiran, you'd asked, and of course, the first thing on the agenda is just to review, so I can give a general overview of where we are, and then, of course, answer your question. So, in terms of where we are, we've reached the stage of, we're in production in the middle of it, but we're at the stage where we are doing the motion. All along, as we've done an extensive scripting, and then we shifted focus to starting to visualize things. So we've done the character models, which we've shared, and we've also done the animatics and the storyboards, which are part of the narrative. So the visual aspects of the storytelling, we've completed all that. But now we're into the production, which is the main part, the meat of it. And it ordinarily starts with some sort of layout to interpret the, let's say, animatic or storyboard in a way that animators can produce motion. Motion is really about sense making in the sense of the story. So if we're trying to emphasize things or bring out various points and hold the interest of the audience at the same time, how will we do that? That's the interpretation I'm talking about. So we're trying to act out the parts in a flowing sense so that the story is not only making sense, but also interesting enough for the audience to watch it. It's running into almost 9 minutes in Swahili. So I think in the local languages, the production is longer actually than it is in English. English is 7 minutes, but once you go to Swahili, it's 9. We will find out about the other languages soon enough. So at the moment, I would say we're at the 55, almost 60% point of production. The difficult window in the flow of events, I think the most difficult was the scripting. I think that was the most difficult, but that's now behind us. So now the most difficult part is the animating, the sense making visually with motion. And that's where we are now. We're at the stage where if we get to 65, 70% of it, then the rest is fairly quick because that's fairly standardized. It involves things like lip syncing, coloring, scene building, but they're very technical, but they're very straightforward. They're not having interpretation and all this thing going on. So we've got to get to 70%, and then the rest follows very quick. Because of the nature of this job, we're doing everything. I think what we're trying to do is to do the animation to the Swahili version, because if we do the animation and cut it to the English version, it looks to me that we're going to end up with a short animation. And when the Swahili is dubbed on top, there won't be enough footage to say what we're saying. So it's something that came out of the wash, that once we recorded both English and Swahili, we could see that one was 9-point-something minutes, the other was 7 minutes. So this difference, we needed to have a strategy that took it into account. So we're now, we made a decision to use the Swahili for the purpose of the animation. So that, of course, extends things a little bit, but we're trying to internalize that. The other thing is well, I'll move on to the other things next, but for now, answer Kiran's question on whether we can be ready for July. That is our plan. Our plan is to be ready by the 21st of June, although we've already had some hits, which have sort of thrown that slightly off. But I'll reschedule it, and then, I'd say give and take a week. So by the end of June, we'll be done, which means it'll be in time for July with English and Swahili. Yeah, but feel free. I mean, it's
cool.
Yes, go ahead.
No, that's great news, Martin. That's great. I was just going to comment. That's great. I'll let you finish first.
No, I'm done. I just wanted this to be a discussion, so it's good that you asked, and then we can drive the session with the discussion.
Okay, super. But, Martin, I think being slightly longer is not the end of the world. This is such a complicated project. and ultimately this probably would have been better as like two different cartoons.
Yes.
We should have thought about that. So I think having it as one longer one is not a big problem in my mind. And yeah, I understand. Obviously, Swahili takes longer than English. It's much easier to deliver messages in English or quicker. So to me, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I think it's going to be an interesting one, and I think people will listen. Priscilla, Peter, do you guys agree? Do you think communities will hold focus for 9 minutes? Are you confident with that, Peter?
Yeah, I think they can focus for those 10 minutes. 9 minutes. And given that they enjoy watching these animations, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I agree. So, Martin, I wouldn't worry too much. I think the content's the most important thing. And if it's interesting, like Priscilla says, I think they'll listen and watch.
Okay. One of the things that we had done from the start was we broke it into 3 acts. So in some ways, if it's a training thing that you're doing, you can always compartmentalize it into these 3 acts. So in some ways, it's almost like 3 productions, like Kiran was suggesting, that it's more than one. So you have Act 1, 2, and 3, and they have slightly different focuses. So that was initially to help us understand it, but maybe it can be a strategy as well. Yeah.
So Martin, maybe when you're doing the final editing, then to have like a gap or something between those acts would probably be a good idea. So that as you say, the teams on the ground know inherently that that's a place where they can pause.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. So what we're preparing for you is a pre-visualization. I think Kiran asked for it. I think I'm not sure, but somebody asked. I think it's you. For us to
Yeah, I did.
You did, yes. To show what it would look like with some motion. So we're doing that. It's also taken me a bit longer to do it. It's me who was working on that. And one of the reasons is, as you said, it's a complicated project. It's complicated not only in the thematic things, the stuff that you want to pass on, but also in the fact that we're dealing with crowd scenes. And when you have crowd scenes, everybody seems to be important. So we have almost like 8 important actors, the Morans, 2 or 3 of them. Then you have the elders who carry different messages, 2 or 3 of them. And then you have the community in the sense of a woman representing that. So in some ways, it's a crowd, and trying to give importance to each one of them is part of the complexity of the story visually. So in that sense, it has been a bit of a challenge. And what we've learned, having spent all this time with you, is that the group or community you're targeting are visually literate, very strongly literate visually. So you can't misconstrue messages. So trying to be consistent and targeted in terms of the visual stuff we put on the screen, for us is a challenge in some ways, because we're almost like tourists in the area, all of us. I mean, we're not from northern Kenya, so we're having to learn and internalize and then apply what we see and maintain the integrity. So there are challenges for us, but we like the challenge, and we're trying to hopefully produce something that works. So those are the kind of things that are slowing us down. The rest are just technical issues, but of course, with technical things, you have to just work around them. We had a challenge when I had mentioned this in the last meeting, when the rains came. People were cut off and not attending meetings. People didn't have power, but we're over that now. So at least we're back on track. So I believe within a couple of days now, we should have a pre-visualization for you, which you can use. Now, it's a step up on the animatic because it's not stills. Now you have motion and you have a sense of the acting. You have a sense of it. So it's closer to the final, but not the final. The final is going to have now details in terms of wardrobe and in terms of, you can say, clarity of drawing. The characters will be quite clear. So resolution will be up on the final, and then the wardrobe will be more precise. And then, of course, if that's okay, then we move to the coloring. So we've kept coloring as an end game in case there are changes on the drawings that we still have to make on the sequences. Yeah. Feel free. I mean, I'm just still open to the conversation in terms of what we're discussing. Any questions you might have or any suggestions. I mean, we're open to them. Yeah, Kiran, you had a lot of suggestions. If there's anything you want to write or even speak in the meeting, this is a good time.
Martin, no, I think it's good. I think I need to see it now. You know what I mean? You guys have obviously made really good progress.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the effort you're putting in. So I think the next phase will be to see it, and then I'm sure there'll be comments and feedback on that. Does that make sense? So I'm really excited. I'm really excited that your timeline of sort of July works, and that you guys are close to being able to share some of the visual stuff with us, so we can give you some feedback. That's really great news, Martin.
Okay.
And that's really what I wanted to get out of this call today, was just to make sure that we're, and I'm not going to put you in undue pressure to make it and do it under par. Let's have a quality product. But if we can have something, as I say, over the next few weeks, it would be amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you're talking about that, because sometimes, right, I mean, we're juggling between producing anything or producing something, of value, of quality. But yeah, so it's we're trying to maintain the quality of the animation and storyline, but critically the integrity of the message. So that's where you come in very helpful. You've been very helpful, Kieran, because of the detail with which you give us instructions. So that really helps us to orientate ourselves, to know that we have to kind of stick within this framework. So that is a quality issue, and it really helps us anyway to feel we're on the right track for sure. Yeah.
Go on then, Martin. From my previous experience with the cartoons we designed previously.
Yeah.
The way communities sort of understand and think of things is complicated. To us it might be simple, but there's always other ways they look at things, and you don't know that until you start showing them. So that's where, if we could have them ready to start showing them at some of these assembly meetings where we know there's going to be a good audience who are sort of well informed and aren't going to be destructive, and they'll only be constructive, then it could be a really valuable way to sort of put final edits to the final version. So field testing it in that way, I think, is critical before it's signed off.
Yes.
And your team, even if one of your team was available, they could come. If we chose a venue and something, a date that was going to happen, it's quite useful for you guys to be there to listen, with your own ears as well.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good idea. In fact, I mean, I like the way you're saying that. Okay. Anyone else who wants to weigh in? Steve, do you have anything to say or add? Or anyone can still weigh in. Yeah, but thanks, Kieran. I think what you're saying is encouraging for us. I think it really helps us that you've done this before, actually, with another group, because it's different when you understand the animation process a little bit, because often the clients don't understand it. So knowing where we need to put in the time and the effort and where things can go wrong is central to the success of it. But you're right about it being the iterative method you're proposing, where you test, we get feedback, and we reorientate it or target it in a way that the message is at least reaching the audience, is good. It's good. There is something. So in terms of, go ahead, Kevin. Yeah.
No, I'm saying I'm saying I agree. And you've seen the previous cartoons, haven't you, Martin? I'm sure you've seen this. Yeah, good. Perfect.
Okay. There's something to the next thing on the agenda, which is the feedback and on what needs to be provided for the next stage. So there's several things, and for this is where we need Carlos, actually. So Carlos is the guy coordinating on the ground the translation to the other languages. But you said now that at least if we have English and Swahili, we have something, and you can start. So we'll aim towards that. But maybe in the next meeting, Carlos can give us some feedback. He had said that Samburu is translated by now, but he had expected by this week for the other languages to be translated at the same time. But I'm not sure how he's doing with that. So that's one thing we need. So I suppose we can start that conversation. The second thing we need is the casting. We need to cast actors rather than people who can speak the language. So casting has this extra step of trying to identify people who can act out the part. Now that's particularly the case with the main actors. The main actors seem to be the elders. They're the ones who talk the most. So those elders who are carrying this either traditional message or the scientific message or even the urban market message. And then there's the woman. She's very important. So those main actors, there are about 4, and the narrator need to be actors. at least good ones, or credible ones, or believable ones. So, so that's the second thing that we needed to be kind of clear on. If that can be, of course, it has to be done for the 4 languages. But if this can be started, then we can start to pin down now the characters, the main ones, because they'll hold it together. So that's the second thing. The third thing is to do with the recording. So Steve's here, he's the sound design guy. He's the one who does all this recording. But we need to record the crew. There are almost 80 people in total if you count them. But we need to record them at his studio. And we've got a contract which explains all that. And we also have an agreement with NRT that when we get to this stage, they will fund the recording. They'll pay for that. So that's what I needed us to discuss as well. But it's something, it's not the subject of this meeting. It's a subject of a meeting with, I think, Shibiha and the operations guy. So we will, I think I'll raise it when I know it's about to happen. But there is going to be, in my estimation, at least 5 or 4 days, let's say, but 5 days, where this group comes and are recorded within the studio. The reason for the days is because they're not likely to be all professionals. So they might be, it will take longer to record them because they've never done it before. And we have to get it right. So we'll have a day for rehearsal, a day for the actual recordings, and there are 3 acts. So you might find that each act is taking a day. We might find that. It might go faster, we don't know. But at least in the, and then once we're done, we'd want to listen to it, and if there are corrections, to make them before we disband. So that's the final day. So that kind of thing is something that we now need to plan towards. Again, if we're doing Swahili and English now, then there's no pressure on that. We'll focus on the Swahili and English, at least for the animation. But while we're doing that, this is the background in stuff that's going on. Okay, so that's the feedback.
Martin, that makes sense.
Yes.
Martin, on those characters, the extra funding for, again, it all makes sense because we've been through this process before.
Yeah.
Has that been discussed and in writing that NRT will fund that for you guys? I just want to make sure that that's clear and that they have funding for that.
Yeah. What's written, so within the contract, what's written is that they will pay for these actors, and because there's the voiceover fees, as you know, so they will pay for that, and they'll pay for the studio. So those are studio recording fees and all that. That's already in the contract, and that's already agreed. What's not in the contract, which is something that needs to be discussed so that it's explicit, is who will transport the actors, let's say, from northern Kenya to Nairobi, and then accommodate them for, let's say, 4 or 5 days. That's not discussed. But that's now, so I'm raising it first in this meeting, but it's the discussion that I've had with Osman, and I will also have it with Chibiha, so that we have that explicit, at least in writing, or at least articulated in a way that it's clear that that needs to be funded as well. If we, the alternative...
Martin, I would urge you to do that pretty soon. Just and loop in Priscilla because she'll obviously lead from the carbon side, but do that soon because NRT's processes are just that they have to take time. So I would do that quite soon.
Okay, I'll engage in that one then. Yeah, I'll do it right away. The alternative, which I think is not really an alternative, is that we look for actors in Nairobi who can play the part, because there'll be no burden if they're in Nairobi already in terms of accommodation and transport. I tried that. I tried a dry run with Carlos using these are samburus, but they're found in the south, not in the north. And he said that it was wrong. It was, I don't know, the dialect was wrong or something. So they were using terminologies that are not used also in the north. So there were differences which we were not aware of. So I think it's better to do it the way that we're now going. We look for speakers from the north, and then that way, of course, it's targeted. Okay. Maybe I'm talking too much, but that's just a comment on the side. Mm-hmm.
It has to be from up here. We found the same last time, Martin. Priscilla will be the best to comment on this, but local, regional dialect and understanding is critical.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Any
Yeah,
comments?
Martin,
Yes, yes.
I agree. We need to get people from the north.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no need of recording people from here.
yeah,
And then when it goes to the north
yeah.
to be shown there, people do not understand. They're
True,
like, what are these people saying? You
true.
know, the dialects are different.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we'd better arrange for people to be transported here, housed and fed
yeah,
for those 4 days.
yeah,
Then we can get one thing that we don't have to go back and forth. We don't even have the budget to go back and forth when it
yeah.
comes to recording.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've discussed this extensively with Steve. If Priscilla, you'd like to comment, or Peter, anything you'd like to say, feel free. It's now a discussion, really.
Martin, there is these people that you are saying that they will be acting like actors, and sometimes it's very hard to get community members because now some even never even had to identify who have been actors and all that.
True, true.
How can you go about that? Because now it's just very and those who understand the language so much now the local communities if they can.
That's very
Yeah.
true.
Let me probably weigh in here. The easiest way to find those kinds of people is to go to organized groups like churches. Churches have people who are talented. It's easier to find actors there or even singers than to just go to, a group of manyatas and look for people who can do that. Look for like youth groups, churches. It's easier to find actors there. You will always have a group of people who are into art or acting or singing. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the way to do it.
that's right. Yeah, Steve has a lot of experience with that. But anyone else who would like to add to it? Clearly,
You know,
yes.
the one other organization who have been doing theatre up here.
Mhm.
So they're using theatre as a way of disseminating information about HIV and other things. Is that they're called SAFE, SAFE.
Okay.
And they've been working all over Kenya, but they would be good guys to speak to too because they've got locals who are actors and actresses doing theatre, so they would probably be very good people to speak to too.
Okay. Okay, that's very good. All right. And just from an animator's point of view, if anyone expresses themselves emotionally, even if you give them one line to read and they read it emotionally, however it is, it doesn't matter the emotion, but it's either angry or happy or sad, however they do it, that's a good sign that they can play a part. You know, it doesn't mean everything they say is emotional, but that capacity to be emotive is important if we're going to develop something that holds attention. The way animators work, especially when we're doing stuff that should hold people's interest, is we identify emotional beats and we go from one emotion to another emotion. That's really how we do it. So what would be difficult to animate would be if someone is speaking like a narrator throughout a commentary. But if someone is actually expressing themselves and trying to get something out, that helps to find and give, you can say, flesh to the characters. So ask any of them to read a line. They can. Some people are funny or prefer to make it funny. That's fine. Some people are more serious, but they can get intense. That's good. Some people are negative. Some are positive. Either way, whichever emotion, it's fine. So that's a kind of thumb rule that would help to guide you whether somebody can work or not. Okay, it's not someone who can read only or someone who can speak only. No, it's someone who can express themselves. Yeah, emotionally.
Yeah, to make it easier, we'd rather have 5 to 6 actors
Yeah,
who will double in the minor characters by changing their voices
yeah,
than get 20 people,
yeah,
and most of them cannot act.
yeah.
So the focus is finding people who can act
Mm,
and can read and
mm,
speak the language very well.
exactly. And
Yeah. So
also,
even if you get 5, 6, 7, 8, we are happy with that. We
uh,
can make them change their voices to do different minor characters.
Absolutely. It also makes it more affordable, less expensive. Yeah. Okay. Any other point on that? Maybe. Feel free. This is where Carlos was helping and coordinating. But if you have any other comments you'd like to make on this side, this is a moment. So the last issue is to discuss the next steps. What I will be doing by the end of today, I'll publish the flowchart again so that you can just see the steps we've gone through and where we've reached, and the percentage will be reflected automatically. It's roughly, I think, 55%, 54% or something. I don't know, but you'll see it by the end of the day. So the next steps for us is, once we're done with the pre-visualization, I believe it will take a couple of days. Let's say a couple more days, I should say, because I keep moving the deadline. But let's just say by 2 more days on this. Once we're done with that, we move on to do what we call the cleaned up animations, which is the black and white animation, but drawn as a final, you can say, drawing, but fully animated. So you can make changes, of course, to whatever we give you in the pre-visualization, but not sweeping changes to the story, because if you make changes to the story, then we have to reconstruct even the pre-visualization. But you can comment on it and see where you feel what we need to address. So that will give you a chance. Between the pre-visualization and the final is roughly 10 days. So if the pre-visualization comes out in 2 days, then by the 22nd, you'll have the final animation in black and white. If the final animation feels right, then it just takes 2 days, and then you have it in is it 2? Yeah. Let's say 3, 4 days. Then you have it lip synced. 4 days. Then you add on 2 days, and you have color. And then, of course, with that, you have your first draft. Because once we have it in color, we'll edit it and give it to you in a day, and you can use that as your first draft. There'll be 2 languages, English and Swahili.
And Martin, I assume when the black and white comes, we'll understand it then. The whole cartoon is effectively done, other than those other details. So that would be great. We can start giving you feedback immediately from there.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. You'll be able to do that.
Does that make sense? So if you are happy, then it'd be, that would be a great time, I think, to share with us, because effectively the cartoon is then as it is. Obviously, we understand the color and lip sync and things, but even without those, it would be great for us. So then we can just start giving you feedback immediately.
All right. No worries. And then there's an important aspect of it, which is the motion graphics, which are carrying the hardcore message. And we have 3 of them. One motion graphic is on the carbon cycle. The other motion graphic is on the rotational grazing, that sort of thing, herd bunching and rotational grazing. And then the third motion graphic is on the rangeland management cycle in relation to the carbon market. So it shows what you have to do on the ground in relation to how it impacts on the carbon market, and then how the carbon market impacts on the development, on the society and everything. So that is also a cycle in a way, but that is the rangeland management infographic. So those are somewhat central to your message. So that will be included in a preliminary way first, and then you can weigh in on that very strong. Yeah. Any other comments?
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't want to move us back, but thank you, Kieran, for that contact of that organization that deals with actors.
Yeah.
So that we keep things going. I would ask if you could share the contact with Martin. Then between Martin and Carlos, we can start speaking to these people now. We don't want to start running around like headless chicken when the day for recording is close.
That's true.
So so if we can work on the actors quickly, and then also discuss the issue of accommodating them. I don't want to book the studio and then we have to be moved again, and I have bumped out my clients out of the studio. So it has to be really organized so that the day we say they're coming, they will come, record, and leave. Yeah,
that's right.
Sure. I will send an email straight away linking Martin, and she's called Alice, and I'll CC Carlos in there too, so that he's in the loop.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So
Martin, your Gmail is the best one, isn't it? Your Gmail address.
yeah, that's the best one. So any other discussion topics, Steve, maybe? And then, of course, the rest, Kirin and Priscilla and Peter.
All good, my end, Martin. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to seeing the next steps. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing else from me. Nothing else from me.
Okay. Priscilla.
I'm happy to, and we are looking forward to the pre-visualization so that we can be able to give feedback.
Okay. Okay. So Peter, maybe he's not.
Friday.
He's not able to speak.
Hi, Martin. I'm okay on my side. Proceed.
All right. So thanks very much.
What
What I'll do.
Carlos,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm saying we are going to update Carlos on the discussion and make sure that he joins us in the next meeting.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll make this video available, and then I will just write the main points of the meeting so that it's in an email to all of us, including Shibiha, so that they can see what we discussed. But I'm very happy that you've come, and thanks. It also gives us a lot of motivation because of the long nights, but it really is good when we're on the same page. So, yeah, we can say same time next week, 3 to 4 is good for everyone on Monday.
I'm just checking. Let me just check, Martin. So it might be a public holiday next week, huh? That's what they're saying.
Oh, really? Which one is that?
For Eid.
Oh, I see.
We're not sure yet, though. But yeah, it works fine for me, Martin. This is a good time for me. It's better than morning.
Okay. All right. So let's tentatively plan for that. 3 to 4 on Monday next week. If it's Eid, we can reschedule. We can just reschedule.
Sure.
By then you'll have.
Great, Martin.
Yeah.
And any other updates you have, just fire them through on email. We're eager to help where we can.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Kiran, for the energy, and thank you, Priscilla.
It's good. It's exciting.
Yes, I can feel it. And thanks, Priscilla, for coming because we haven't heard from you much, but we're happy that you're fully on board, and Peter also, just for being consistent.
Martin, thanks for your energy too.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to it.
Thanks. Okay, guys. So I'll stop the recording now, and unless there's any other business, feel free.